Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to Basscast Radio. I am your host, Brian Carter. And guys, the team is back tonight. We got Hank the Bass Geek below me for you guys watching on YouTube. Thomas Aarons with Fishing the DMV. And you guys go, Mr. Dave Miller is back in the house. We kind of, he's a little piece of the puzzle. We got a lot of different guests we've invited back this year. So, Dave, man, appreciate you coming back on the show and talk with us tonight. Guys, it's the off season. It's time when all the chatter has begun, and there's a lot of chatter happening in the world of tournament bass fishing right now. And I've got a couple parts. I want to talk about dealing with the Army Corps of Engineering right here in Central Virginia. And Dave's going to talk about tournament fees. And for you guys that didn't know, the Super Tournament was just at Bugs Island a couple weeks ago. And we're going to talk about what it really costs and what all really goes into a Super Tournament. And especially for an angler like Dave that lives so freaking far away. I mean, how many hours was it to Bugs Island from your house, Dave?
12 hours. And it was the
12 hours. And then 5 nights in hell. I mean, Bugs Island. So, between that, we're looking at a whole lot of money. But before we get started on that, guys, you guys all know by now, hopefully, we record on Wednesday nights. Show gets uploaded Monday mornings. And the Big Bass Tour would have already left Central Virginia. But looking forward to it. It was another great weekend on Smith Mountain Lake. I really don't know the turnout what it's going to be like this week. But I'm talking to presents. But, because they threw this bad boy in here. And a lot of schedules are already put together. So a lot of people locally won't be fishing this event because there are a lot of other events that are happening within the next 2 weeks that will determine the future for a lot of anglers and its championships and all that great stuff coming up. So I really don't know what's going to happen or what has happened, but we'll talk about it on the next episode. Also, guys, Calvin Herndon, man, before the first cast, he has got a great episode coming out. His episodes drop every Friday. And this episode will be out as well, but if you haven't listened, it will be with Mr. Randy Howell. So he had Randy on talking about coming back to the elites, and Randy dropped a bunch of great tips. I will be honest, guys, it's the longest first cast so far. It was almost an hour because Calvin said Randy loves to talk, and he dropped a whole lot of information. So if you haven't listened to it, please make sure you guys tune in and listen to that episode, by the way. So let's go around the corner real quick, go around the room real quick. And Geek wasn't with us last week because he's out hitting the record button while we were hitting the record button. What you got coming up for us, brother?
We're just tossing those videos out Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, shorts every day in between. Just grinding, man.
Do you have an update on how many followers you currently have, Geek?
I haven't looked today. I think we're at 81.5. Should be.
All right, guys.
81,500 subs.
All right, man. We need to go over there right now and make sure you subscribe. You can subscribe to Basscast Radio as well.
Well, listen, it's a slow time. It's November. A lot of people are quitters, and that's what I call all the ones that go to the woods. A bunch of quitters.
That was actually pretty good, Geek. I ain't gonna lie. That was pretty daggone good.
No, I get it. Listen. I'm going to say, all you quitters, guys that like to hunt, go ahead, go to the woods. That way I don't have to deal with you being on my daggone spots.
Boom. Yeah. So also, guys, I posted something the other day. I saw it online. It's really freaking cool. And it looked like a receipt, and it just says how to support your small business friends. It says give them a shout out. It don't cost you guys nothing. Follow their business page. Again, it costs you nothing. Tell a friend. 0. Engage with their post. 0. And root for them. 0. And that's what this thing's all about. And we do have one Patreon on here, Thomas. But, the rest of us all get paid by views. I mean, clicks, views, read. I don't cover it up. I mean, that's why there's ads on the website. I mean, I tell people straight up, this thing ain't free. I mean, I don't get paid anything. I write myself 0 checks here at thebasscoast.com. I have never put my name on a check in 15 years. Now, I will have swiped the card for gas, and I have swiped the card to take people out to eat or go out to eat. Or if we have to pay for room and board. That's just normal stuff that comes with covering a tournament. But
so now wait, I've got to interrupt. Thomas says he took you out to eat. He hasn't took me out to eat.
No, he hasn't taken me out to eat at all.
All right.
I'm hungry.
Exactly.
Yeah.
When we get up your way, Thomas, and you like us, then I will take you out to eat. So there you guys go. But I mean, like I said, that's how we get paid. I mean, I really do. I mean, so please hit subscribe button. Please tell your friends. Share a post. I mean, you might listen to. I mean, a lot of people listen to our last podcast with Brandon Pritchett. A lot of people loved it, and I've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. But just hit the share button. I mean, it doesn't cost you anything. I mean, if you really, want to support all of us, hit the share button. That's how it grows. But Thomas, I'm done with the pedestal. What's happening with you, Thomas?
Not much. Last week we dropped 5 episodes. This week we're doing 3, and next week we're going back to 5. We are cranking them out right now as we get in transition from Lake BFL tournaments, Toyota tournaments to basically smallmouth heaven. The Susquehanna River is going to be popping off here soon. You have the native power hour, which is basically they're giving away $1,000 each hour of big fish is caught, which is basically like the big bass bash that you have down at Smith Mountain Lake. And then we also have the Shenandoah and the Upper Potomac. Dude, if you like catching big footballs between now and January, dude, it is popping.
Dude, I'd love to get up there because I love catching them big footballs. I ain't gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
That's smallmouth fight, and that's some daggone good fishing right there.
That's what I chase all winter long. About that time down here.
Well, you got to come up to me. We'll do it in actually a foot of water on a river.
See, I do it in like 80. Like 80 foot of water. They'll start at about 45, and they just get deeper and deeper as the winter goes.
Wow. Dang, that's crazy.
That is awesome. All right, guys. So I received a letter, and I got some input about 2 weeks ago that some changes are happening in the Army Corps of Engineering for you guys out there. And tonight we're going to kind of talk about expenses, what really goes into this dream of tournament bass fishing. And so I'm going to start off with the director side of this whole entire thing. Now, I will tell you guys, I think as far as I know, the SML, the Virginia State Parks, is still only charging $25. I haven't really heard anything about them going up yet in 2025. But the Army Corps of Engineers popped out a letter talking about event fees. And starting in 2025, guys, a 25 boat tournament is $25. This is a non-profit. That means there's no money paid out. A 26 to 50 boat is $50 per day. 50 to 100 boats is $75 per day, and 101 boats is $100 per day. And then let's go into the fishing tournaments for profit. It follows the same guidelines as above. So most of these tournaments that I know that happen on boats, not all of them, are around the 50 to 100 boat, Bass Nation, 50 to 100 boat, a CAT event, or all around that number. But starting in next year, there's a subject to a 2% of profit revenue payment to United States Army Corps of Engineers. Corps of Engineers, I apologize. So, on top of that, you're going to have to pay a little bit more to fish the Army Corps Engineer. The tournament director is going to have to take it or add it to the extra fee for each tournament so that way at the end of the event, they can pay it out. So, there's, we talked about it off the show a little bit, and, our lake's getting overfished. We all kind of know that. But what will this money go to? I looked up on the internet before we started, and there will be a shortfall in 2025. They're getting less money. It's a few $1,000s. I think it's more than a few thousand. I wish I'd have wrote that number down, but there's a shortfall coming for the Army Corps of Engineering. Now, that is all of Army Corps and Engineer. That's not just Virginia, but that's the whole entire governing body. But I mean, more fees, guys. Like we're not feed enough. What do they want? What do they want happen? I mean, what is the ultimate goal for the Army Corps of Engineer? Will we see another fish stocking throughout the year? What are you all's take on?
I think it's survival, honestly. As the guy that's on the board for the Maryland Department of Wildlife Resources, they didn't raise their fishing license fee since Reagan was in office because they just did an oopsie daisy and they didn't think about this thing called inflation and things going up in value. So I think it's them playing catch up. I think the government bureaucracy is absolutely staggering how money gets moved around to maybe they do need it. Yes. Maybe after the 2 hurricanes that they've had, they're like, maybe we should actually check these leaks now. Do I think it's an insidious thing to just bash anglers? I don't know yet. I don't know. I've seen it be insidious before, especially up at like Raystown, places like that. The positive thing is, I think, because there's some private lakes or some smaller lakes in Northern Virginia where clubs have to pay out the butt to have tournaments there. But the positive they've told me about that is they don't want these tournaments to go because that's a massive revenue source that they would lose. So they have a stake in the game now. And even though the homeowners will complain on some of these lakes, you guys know that I'm talking about, the people that run the lake are like, listen, like this is a good chunk of change that we'll lose, and we know you're not going to make up for it, so we're going to stand up for them. And I think, honestly, maybe in the future, that's what we need, is more of a stake in the game, being like, hey, listen, we pay this amount each year. Now we want to see this, this, and this. But
if we're paying more, I mean, if it's directed just at the tournament anglers, and there's not other, parking fees or, campground usage, or if they're not raising other rates, then we do need to speak up and say, okay, if we're going to be doing this, and we're going to be okay with you charging us this 2%, per, we need to speak up, and we need to claim the stake that we have.
But as we talked about on this show before, and Thomas brought it up, the money really doesn't go back to the anglers.
Mm-mm.
And that's the whole killer behind it, is it hasn't gone back to a restocking or like Thomas is going to do with his good gosh, the money he raises,
nonprofit casting for conservation,
to fix ramps, fix dams. You know what I'm saying? The money's not really going, not all the money's going back into that, and that's the whole problem behind it.
It is, and it's like again, like what can we do? And this has been my biggest knock with anglers in general, is we don't have an NRA. The reason the hunting lobby is so strong, and I've seen this in Maryland, things like that, is because the NRA has their back. Because as soon as people think it's gun right related and not just hunting, oh Lord, they lawyer up real freaking quick. And so a lot of people don't like to touch that thing, especially, in different communities and state chambers. Mm-hmm. You don't have that for fishing. The river keepers are the closest, where if you just dump an Acme barrel in your local creek or river, you will be getting a lawyer email. That's it. You don't have that for the lakes.
Yeah, that's true. But we talk about a stocking for bugs as well to help with the spotted bass issue they have down there. So I mean, they could do something with the money that would help them, but will they do it?
So do you think that there's not an organization like that for fishing? Because most of the lakes, and I know a lot of people fish, streams and a lot of different types of fishing, but do you think that it's because a lot of the lakes are, man-made and managed by, either like places like the TVA or...
Yeah, it's that jurisdiction thing that's really weird, because the river keepers were, I think, founded by the Kennedy Jr. up at the Hudson, because the joke was the Hudson River used to be whatever color they were painting the fire trucks up river. And it was like really bad, like, Chinese river's bad. And so that was kind of needed. Then I think what's interesting here is when it stops being a river and a lake and their jurisdiction ends. I do not want to bore you guys with this stuff. I find it fascinating because it is a problem. If you look at the Potomac River, I had a couple of captains on this past summer where if you look at the Inner Harbor, that used to be all grass and an ecosystem. And then they started to do construction to get that nice casino and to fix the bridge. And there's no grass basically. Dave, I think you were fishing up there. Like it sucks compared to what it was 10, 15 years ago. And the river keepers had to go in there and be like, yeah, this stuff has to stop. I would like to see an organization like this, but I don't know how it'd be framed because you have to compete against the TVA, you have to compete against the Army Corps of Engineers, and then all those HOAs. If you look at what's going on in Gunnersville and all those Alabama lakes,
Yeah.
it is like Yellowstone Mafia stuff. It's insane the level I think corruption that's going on down there.
So we want to hear your thoughts and your opinions. How should we handle this? Should, for all you tournament anglers out there, how should the fees be handled? I mean, you don't want to go up on it, but they got to understand that whatever Brett collects, he does pay some of that money out. But I mean, most of that money helps pay for the organization itself, the gas, food, what I was talking about earlier.
And I guess to me, I didn't get to read the memo, but is it the lake or is it just boat ramps that are controlled by the Army Corps of Engineer?
It's the boat ramps that are run by the Army Corps Engineer.
So what'll be interesting there is if this is going to sprout up more, fishing centric boat ramps. Up on the Upper Bay, the Bass Federation up there, I think it was at Gunpowder, I believe. They put in a massive boat ramp marina just to hold their fishing tournaments, and they have control over that. Is this something that we're going to see? I mean, good Lord, Kerr has 98 boat ramps. Could potentially we see people being like, screw it, we all go in together and buy a chunk of land and we just make our own boat ramp?
That's true.
I'm not. Hey, if anyone would do that to Lake Gaston, oh my God, the amount of business you would get if you put in a good boat ramp there privately. Yeah. I mean, oof, that'd print money. But maybe that's where this goes. That's how capitalism works, right? It finds a way.
So yeah, guys, the future of tournament fishing, where will it be? What does it look like for the anglers? What does it look like for the tournament directors? Guys, a lot of these tournament directors are making nothing. A lot of them do it just because they love fishing. And if you guys want to pay out, then the little small clubs are going to have to just start collecting money. And they're going to have to collect more money. So you better have a bake sale. Or my boys at Augusta County, they have a chicken sale. You better do something to raise some money to help your club or just go up on the dues each year.
Wait, my question. When you say they have a chicken sale.
Yes, sir, they do.
Is this plucked and cooked already, or are we talking about live chickens?
Yes, they have a big old chicken sale each and every year. Augusta County Bass, whatever. Yeah, Bass is what they're called now. Yeah, they have a couple different sales every year to raise money for their club. And so
I wonder with a lot of this too, again, I think we've talked about this ad nauseum. Is this a transitional period away from weigh-ins? So Raystown Reservoir, I mentioned a couple of times, they basically, with some nice lawyer wordsmithing, outlawed tournaments. Basically, you can have tournaments, you just can't launch between 2 a.m. and 10 a.m.
Right.
And you can't come in at this time. But if you do catch, weigh, release, that's fine because there's no weigh-in, there's no ramp congestion. And so the club I'm with, Antietam Bassmasters, which is part of the federation, we just went up there and had a tournament because you just launch wherever you want to launch, and you and your co-angler, you do catch, weigh, release, you sign each other's little slip that said, okay, yeah, this was that. That's a workaround. And kayak tournaments, the same thing. When the state of Maryland, you have to go put in your paperwork to have a tournament. Kayak tournaments don't count because it's just catch, photo, release. These are loopholes that I think are going to be just absolutely magnified if you keep having state organizations do this, to where, oh, I can save how much money if I just say we're doing catch, weigh, release? Guys, guess what we're doing? I'm a massive proponent of this now.
Yeah. And, you're talking about the kayak side, Thomas. It was, I think, a year or 2 years ago, they just opened up more lakes that were around us. Like Farmville, you couldn't fish any of them lakes a tournament, but now you can because catch, weigh, and release. So the Virginia Game and Fish has opened up a lot of lakes that were once shut off to any tournaments whatsoever. So we can only see what the changes will be and where this whole thing is going in the end. And like I said, we'd love to get your feedback and your opinion and thoughts, and you guys can post it in our group after the episode is uploaded, after you guys listen.
Since you guys are tournament directors and always you guys have probably fished more tournaments than me in my little life, is it getting too expensive to have a weigh-in? Is that another thing too where we're getting to? Like, I'm running a private tournament with the Tourney X app, and all I have to do is log in the morning and just make sure all the fish are not illegally done, and I go back to bed. Don't have to go to a weigh-in or anything like that. There is a logistical thing that is kind of nice, and I know it's early, but in 10 years, what are we looking at? Is it just too expensive to have a weigh-in event?
I will be honest. I think a lot of them still do the weigh-in events because it is brand awareness. And that was what Major League Fishing, the Bass Pro Series, lost. And that's why, on top of all the changes, it's one of the reasons why a lot of anglers are coming back to bass, because they lost that, they lost that separation really between anglers and fans.
But at the highest level,
this is like a rabbit hole for mofo, because I went to the Major League Fishing event this year. There was people there waiting. It wasn't a lot. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there was like maybe 25 people waiting, maybe 50, waiting for the anglers to come back. Half of them did whatever the hell they wanted to do. Half of them didn't come back. And I mean, it's like this disconnect where it really has become a job. I go to work, I finish, I come home. It's not an angler to fan base anymore. It's I go to work and I come home, and that's pretty much it. So I mean, and when I got a sponsor that's paying me $4,000 or $5,000, whatever it is, on a jersey, boat wrap, etc. I mean, you ain't got nobody there to talk about your product. You got nobody to talk about the battery you're representing. I mean, you've broken this big disconnect where if you look at the Bassmaster, and I know we've talked about their fan base this year and how they're like, no way these numbers were smudged, and a million people watched and all this other crap. But you can look in the stands. I mean, they fly a drone over. There's at least a couple hundred people watching a Bassmaster weigh-in. And these brands are all in their face the whole entire time. They're all set up on the sides. And, even at this Major League Fishing event I went to, they had a local brand, and then it might have had 3 of their main brands. And that was it. So it's really, you got to keep them happy as well as the anglers happy. And that was the disconnect, if you ask me, for the Bass Pro Series.
I mean, I think there's a lot of things we could unpack from there. I think the first off is the people left because they just sucked at catching them. It was never like the Jacob Wheeler's like, listen, I've just made too much money over here, so I want to go back to bass. It were the guys that just sucked and you forgot who they were, generally speaking. I do think that is definitely part of it, but how much of it was like they competitively weren't doing well? Because if they were, they would have had that moral impetus to leave. And I think at the highest level, yeah, like it's an event, a Bassmaster, a BPT, but the BFL, the Toyota. And how's this for a segue? Because I Googled this while we were talking. In 2020, there were 8 divisions of the Toyota series. From 2020 until 2025, there were then 6. And now next year, there's 5. And they are starting to, if you look at the circles, basically the rings of where all these events are held, they're holding it in places for logistics. It's easier for them. That's why the Potomac will have 38 regionals. That's why the Kerr will, because they can just leave the trailer there. Logistically, it makes sense.
Yeah.
And if you're shrinking divisions down like that, that's not a thriving economy. But you can't incorporate word that, hey, guess what, guys? It's too expensive. They're going to be like, listen, you guys don't want to travel. And because we're so big-hearted, we will only go to the Potomac 36 times just for you. Like, that's not true.
No.
And guys, I know that up front because you guys know I went up to the James this year and I covered 2 of the events of the James. They had another event coming back, and the trailer just sat there locked up for maybe a month because they had all those, summertime events on the James River. So, like you said, it's a great transition into bringing in Dave. Dave, man, appreciate you again coming on talking with us tonight. And Dave really wanted to highlight some of the, fees and the tournaments and the change in schedules for the 2025 season.
Yeah, like we were talking. So the other day about like the expenses, right? So
Yes.
I wrote down this past derb on the on Kerr was actually the regional, not the super.
Sorry.
But yeah, not even including entry fee. Let's start with gas. Truck, $520, and that's to drive for me to drive down from Connecticut and back. Then boat gas was just shy of $300, and I was making a decent run every day. And I didn't even, to be honest with me, I launched at like 6 different ramps during practice, so that I minimized gas consumption, and that's still $300.
Mm.
Then tolls, I go a roundabout way up through PA and over, so I don't have to deal with the GW and everything.
Mhm.
So I was still at $160 in tolls.
Yeah.
And then, unfortunately, a dude I was supposed to split the room with and ride along, he couldn't make it last minute, so I got stuck with the hotel. That was $1,200, and I stayed in Clarksville. So we're at about $2,000, $2,200 right there before the entry fee. So, the pay, and then the payouts, what everybody's complained about has been payouts. See, me personally, I don't care about the payouts as much at the BFLs. The Toyotas, I do.
Yeah.
BFLs, because it's like a pay to play kind of deal, but my goal is the All-American. So I want that trophy, and I'll do whatever it takes to get that trophy. So the money isn't the big deal to me, but at the same time, got to recoup some of the costs here. This is ridiculous. I mean, I have the greatest event, no, but you get like change for a decent finish, and it's not feasible, and it's not sustainable either. And guys are starting to wake up to it, and you could look at the turnouts. I mean, the Northeast, like on the St. Lawrence River, we had like, I think it was like, what? I got it right here. One of you guys chime in on something before.
Nah, I mean, like you're saying though, I mean, that's been I'll be honest, Dave. That's been the biggest complaint since I started this thing for most tournaments. But again, it goes back to the fees and what it costs. I mean,
Sure, the BFLs haven't been worth, the
for a long time.
The payouts haven't been good since they were the Redmans.
So
That's about the last time they were.
The St. Lawrence River, arguably one of the greatest fisheries on planet Earth, only drew 70 boats.
Wow.
So there's people that didn't weigh. So I'm not adding these up. About 70 boats. Come on. Like, you guys are seeing the writings on the wall. Then they're like, oh, well, those guys don't want to travel all the way up to St. Lawrence. It's like, not for nothing. I'm in the Northeast. You don't have a real Northeast trail. Like, we got.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask.
We got Winnipesaukee, we got Sebago. Right here in Connecticut, we got Candlewood Lake, we got Connecticut River, we got the Hudson River. There's other things that are closer to, the Maryland, Delaware area for those guys that travel up here and have a true Northeast trail. But we don't do New York, Maryland, and over again. And it's like,
is it really worth it though to spend that much time and energy just to fish the All-American?
Yes.
Yeah, the All-Americans.
Why?
It used to be worth it even to just make the regional, but then they started making you pay an entry fee for the stupid regional now. So.
Yeah. They started that a couple of years ago.
Yeah, which is garbage in my opinion.
Like, Thomas, to my perspective, I mean, anybody can argue with me any which way, but I've always believed, like, number one, out of like prestigiousness of bass fishing trophies, it's Classic, then it was the Cup, and then the All-American in that order.
Yes.
I know like guys will bring up the US and other things out in the West Coast, but for me, growing up and being in this sport and what's around me, that's it. Like, the resting on that list. I mean, it's no offense to the guys, but it's just for me, the All-American. That's like and honestly, if you look at like some of the guys who have qualified for the Classic through the nation, it's almost easier to make it to the Classic. If you're a stick, it's easier to go to the Classic than the All-American because there's so many obstacles in the BFL lane. I mean, you could and kind of like go the TBF route because you have to bypass the whole season, just fish a 2-day, and then you only have to fish 2 tournaments to qualify for the All-American. But the BFL route is like the toughest route, and that's the route I want to take because it's tough. I don't know. I just think a poor execution for the changes that they've made for 2025 to try to justify poor payouts.
Is it still paid to play for the All-American, where it's not about where you finish, it's about if you pay for all the events leading up to it for the division?
What do you mean?
If I pay for all the divisions in the Northeast, whatever, and I go to the regional, does my place matter? Or as long as I've actually paid for all of the tournaments in that division, I could then potentially get a berth to the All-American?
No, you have to qualify for the regional, and then you have to be traditionally. And see, I haven't seen Dave. I haven't seen the. You had to finish in the top 6 in the regional to make the All-American. So you have to qualify in each division top 45 or win. And then I think if you win one, you still have to pay all the entry fees. You don't have to show up for the rest of them. But that's just for the regional. Like you have to finish in the top 45 to qualify to fish the regional.
So it's the super tournament. It's a super tournament because I remember they did that for, I think it was a couple of years, where if you just paid for all of the entry fees, regardless of where you finished, you could potentially buy into the super tournament at the end of the year because they were hurting financially.
No, you can't buy into the regional.
The regional?
They have a wild card, so you can fish 2, pay for 5, and then fish the wild card. Because like say it's like legit, the schedule just doesn't line up for you that year.
Yeah,
there's like it's kind of like an option. But then what happens is a lot of the tour guys jump in the wild card just so they can have a shot at the All-American. They can get a crack at it because it is a coveted trophy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even care about the payout for the All-American. I just want that trophy, man.
Well, and the payout's not bad in the All-American. I mean, it's a free tournament, but getting there is hard as hell.
So next year, what they've done is they've took every regional and divided it by 2. So every regional this year was 4 divisions. Next year, it's going to be 2 divisions per region, and then they're only going to take the top 3 instead.
Oh, wow.
And then me in Connecticut, in the Northeast, I still got to travel to either Shenandoah Division or Piedmont, whichever one I get paired up with. So
that is crazy to me, and it really is crazy that there's not a division farther north than that.
Yeah, there's so many great fisheries up here, and there's a lot of like team trails and like regional things up here, like Cashin, for example. They run a team trail. There's some marinas that run team trails, and they cover the fisheries in New England, and they do a good job at it. And the BFLs, just for whatever reason, and I think back to what Thomas was saying earlier, like bring it back to the Potomac because we could just leave the trailer there for 30 weeks. It's not cool. Like what they did between the divisions or the splitting the regions up like the way they just did. Plus, when you have a regional event and you're fishing against the top 40 sticks from 4 divisions, that's like you're actually competing. Like it's a high level tournament, at a BFL level still.
Yes.
But I mean, I've competed against Gray Buck. I've competed against Brian Schmidt. There's hammers, competing in the BFLs in this division, in these divisions, and there's a lot of hammers. So
same.
It's it means something to, like, if you get that top 6 in the regional, you deserved it for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh yeah, 110%.
But now it's like the top 3, and then what you're going to see again is going to be a local in the top 3 slots, no matter what region it is, nationwide. Like every region.
Yeah, from a corporate sense, it makes sense if you have so many crossover of 36 divisions, but they're all fishing the same lakes, which I think is the issue here. What's the point? Consolidate down. If you're just going to go to Kerr, if you're just going to go to the Potomac River, if you're just going to go like Guntersville, why do we need 3 or 4 divisions? Logistically, there's an issue there. The people that are diehards like Dave, who just love this format, we know that they're going to come. So let's just cut it down. I think there's more of an argument to be made, maybe on the other sense, is if you are all going to different lakes, like it should be. There is a pure northern, there's a pure like eastern, like even again, like I'm on here on the BFL website in 2020. What they considered the Eastern Division was insane. I don't know how this is the Eastern. It was Lake Norman, the Potomac River, and Hartwell. I mean, that is east. That's basically almost 80% of the East Coast. Like their divisions are just so squirrely.
Yeah.
And another thing that a lot of people fail to realize with the BFL is like that saying, you don't know what you have until you lost it. The coming from doing the nation, like growing up doing, the Connecticut Bass Nation and tournaments and whatnot, and then making state teams and going to the regionals and whatnot. Like the regionals in that aspect was cool, but all you do is compete against the local guys on the local pond here in Connecticut. When you're doing the BFLs, it's like a semi-national trail. And this is for all you aspiring anglers out there, that's how you have to grow. Like you can't grow as an angler if you fish the same pond. You can't grow as a business because now you don't have any exposure.
Yep.
You need to be able to travel and hit these different areas. Now, I don't care about traveling to the Potomac or the Bay or the James or anything down there, but it's keeping, like, changing up the format and then who you're selecting and who's going to these regional. If they bring it to where it's like 100 people qualify for the regional means nothing. Like, it's not special anymore.
I mean, something that you mentioned there about like you have to travel around. The problem with how it's constructed, you don't really. There's 6 lakes in the country. If you get good at, you probably have a chance. If you can catch them at Champlain, the St. Lawrence, the Potomac River, Lake Hartwell, Guntersville, or throw in a Cherokee. That's 6 lakes. You probably will finish in the top 20% if you're good at those lakes. So it's. And does college affect this? Because college, when I first did it way all those years ago, it was like you would show up in a truck that looks like you sold fentanyl. It's a boat made in the 80s. Like it was like grassroots. And now it's like people in Auburn, like brand new everything. You're traveling everywhere. You get caviar. You get held up in the best hotels. Is a BFL a drop down? Is it better to be going straight into the Toyotas or into the Opens?
That's what I was going to bring up right there.
Like,
that's 100% true, though.
Is growing, like you can't just put on gloves and jump in a ring and box. Like you have to punch the bag around a little bit, and I think if to that point too, like guys who live in Maine or something, that want to get into this, they can't just fish Cabo Ficanti over and over and over again and go off to a regional and be like, what's this? Fish Candlewood Lake in Connecticut. It is not real bass fishing. Like any textbook, Bassmaster magazine, whatever, that's not real bass fishing. You have to do like finicky little subtle presentations and stuff to really bites. They're so pressured. You can't take the knowledge you have from Candlewood and apply it on Guntersville. It just doesn't work. It's not. You have to gain it like some type of experience. So neither here nor there. The BFLs is the best game in town.
Yeah.
See,
but I think what Thomas is saying is I wonder, because high school and college now is kind of the feeder system. Do they really care?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's
I agree with you.
It's to the point. Do they really care, or do they really care about us guys? I'm 50. That's what I'm going to go fish. Because, is the attendance dropping because the high school and the college feeder system is really taking over, kind of the same thing that it did to the clubs, back in the day. And
when I say these things, it's not about it, like this is how it should be. It's more of an observation. I think depending on where you are in the country, yeah, BFLs are extremely important. Our area is weird because you have like the Elite 70s, you have cats, you have these regional like groups that are arising that have pretty good payouts compared to BFLs. And if you have to pick like, I don't get a co-angler and I get to make more money, well, shit, yeah, I'm gonna go do that.
Yeah.
But the thing that came in my mind when Hank was talking was, in baseball, you have to have 38 levels of college, AAA, AA, whatever. Is fishing more like football, though? Where if you go to college, you have the pedigree now to go straight into the pro system. Because if you are, let's say at Auburn, you are going to fish pretty much all of the lakes that the professionals will. You will go to Neely Henry. You'll go to all those lakes. You're going to get practice. I'm not saying it's right, but I'm saying there is that thought process. If I'm Bass or if I'm FLW, I want to get these kids hooked on the drug early, because once I have them, they're the ones that are going to go buy a boat. They're the ones that are going to go gamble their life away. I get a better return on my investment. I think it's terrible. It's not correct, but I think that's what we're seeing.
Yeah, I like what you're saying there, and that's what I was going to say as well, because the college kids are coming out and they're jumping right into the Toyota series. I mean, they're jumping a whole extra level, and some of them even jumping more than that,
or the opens, or
or the opens.
Yeah.
So
and they've got a and like I said, for us, I mean, it really does suck because, I mean, look, I'm lucky enough. I've got the Morristown Marine Team Trail here. It's team trail. There's other than the BFLs where I'm at, there's like 3-4 different divisions. I'm lucky enough. There's like 3-4 different divisions I can fish, and they're all relatively close.
Yeah.
But the problem is I can get a partner, pay $75 plus the $45, and compete for $10,000, payout guaranteed for 5 tournaments. And then if I finish in the top 10, I can go fish the BASS, what is it, team championship or whatever, and still have a chance. And so, but it's like you were saying, Dave. I mean, I'm with you. Like, I want to fish. I'm going to go fish the BFLs. I mean, I want to go fish the BFLs. I want to make the All-American. Trust me, I've heard. I mean, it's when you talk to guys that have been around as long as me and you have, you hear the stories of how it's just, they treat you like gold. You get, they drive you around, do all this great stuff for you. And you're right. The trophy, it's the prestige of winning an All-American and then getting a chance to go fish as a professional. But I just don't know that the pro leagues, I think they're looking at us guys, us weekend warriors, and saying, sorry about your luck, guys. This is the way we're going now. And I think that's why the BFLs are continually to get worse and worse.
They're contracting. There's no doubt about it. And it's not because of forward-facing sonar. It's fast. And this is the other part that I feel like we always have to mention is the rise of the kayaks. If you look at Hobie, you get to fish a 2-day event for $300. And if it's 100 anglers, you're guaranteed $6,000. If it's 150, you're guaranteed $8,000. And if it's 200, which they do on the Susquehanna, $10,000 to the winner on a $300 entry fee that you get to fish for 2 days. That's an insane return on investment. You don't have to pump gas in your boat. It's a lot cheaper. And I keep wondering, is this something that the big organizations aren't talking about, is how much more each year is kayaking taking a cut at that? That if you're a young guy, that you have a wife, kids, a mortgage, you live in, let's say, Ashburn, Virginia, and you live in a small house, I can't get a 20-foot boat. I can get a kayak that's 12 feet with forward-facing sonar, and I have a chance to win $10,000.
I know guys that have sold their 20-foot boats to get a kayak and start kayak fishing.
It's a guy at work doing the same thing, because he fishes more out of his kayak than he does his boat. So he's selling that because, like I said, the payout, the expenses, and like I said earlier, we know this whole entire sport is a pay-to-play. And what we've seen, anglers who are willing to sacrifice maxing out credit cards, et cetera, to get the Golden Cup.
Yeah, I don't think organizations are capitalizing on the kayak stuff as much as they could, if that's a fair point.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But we all know a couple years ago, Geek was talking about a minute ago, Bass Nation. I mean, not Bass Nation, but Bassmaster had, if your club had so many boats in it, then you could go qualify for that team championship. I think everybody had to pay a $40 registration fee, and then you had to be a member of Bass as well. So you didn't have to fish the club events, and Bass Nation suffered big time for it. I mean, our Bass Nation around here, guys, used to be probably 180 to 200 boats. And I was told from the guys back in the day, they would have to have two separate Bass Nation tournaments, same lake, 2 different weekends. They had 400 boats. And it has sunk down to where, hell, a Bass Cast tournament had more than our Region 2 had. And our Region 2 used to have 100 boats when I started 15 years ago. And shit, I had like 40 to 50 boats in one tournament, and they had 19. Because there was no reason to qualify, and the payouts sucked through the nation because they would keep part of the money to help you go fish on a river you've never seen in your whole entire life that's 9 hours away up there next to Dave's house, and compete against a bunch of people you never heard of, and you get this slim chance that you might make it to the next level and then go fish at Bassmaster Classic. So, I mean, why not fish cat? Fish, Angler's Choice. Now, I know, guys, I heard the other day, Angler's Choice is doing away with it. They're getting away from the Bassmaster side of it. And they're doing away with that. And actually, I was reading, they're doing away with their championship next year. Wow. They're going to have 6 events total between many different lakes, a couple big bass events, and a couple regular events, and that's going to be the whole entire season. They're going to guarantee $10,000 each event, though. So, I mean, saying, Geek, why would you want to go to Bass Nation where you might win $1,000, but I can go over here and fish Angler's Choice, win $10,000, and if I finish in the top percentage, as long as I paid my dues, I can go finish the team series, have a chance to fish the Bassmaster Classic in 2026.
That's why the Morristown Marine averages 235 boats every tournament. So, I mean, you can go fish that, fish for $10,000. The payouts down are much, much better. I mean, you can finish, I think it's like almost 75th and still get your entry fee back,
wow.
$50. It's, well, I mean, you're averaging 235 boats. So, the payout is going to be, and then you're guaranteed 10th, and then you're guaranteed to fish a championship as long as you literally pay for all of them. It's a 2-day tournament for $30,000.
Wow.
So, wow. I mean,
they
know what they're doing. What needs to happen is they need to hire them dudes to come run the BFL.
So the drama will really continue regarding the BFLs and some of these tournaments. And, like Thomas said, are you willing to pay the cost? What are you willing to play the game? I mean, it really is. I mean, are you willing to pay the $2,500 to $3,000 entry fees for the next level? And, that's really what it all boils down to. And, do you want to stay with the BFLs? Do you not mind going to the NPFL? I mean, there's so many different windows, and I'm hearing more. This is, guys, through the loop here with me. There's more a lot of people want to start more big events because they're not liking the direction they're going. But at the end of the day, how is it really going to play out? I mean, the ultimate goal, people, is, like Dave was talking about, was that trophy.
That's for me.
And that's for you, but a lot of guys say it too. I mean, I got a lot of friends here say the same thing. They really want that trophy. The money be gone in the morning. But that trophy I can put on my mantle is there until I'm dead. And then I pass it on, or they take it to the Goodwill and I buy it for $1. I mean, It really is. I mean, it's something that someone can never take away from you, that you want an All-American.
Honestly, I think if the All-American isn't important to you, hate to say it, but the BFLs, there's really no point in doing the BFLs. Do something local. Like up here, we have Reynolds boats. They do a great team trail. Huge, like what you guys were saying. You see $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 for first place. Do something like that, and you get to stay local and fish probably lakes you'd rather fish for wherever you are in the country. There's other trails, but want that trophy, this is what you gotta do. You gotta bite the bullet and do it. Yeah, I mean I did the Toyotas too this year, and I tried my hand at that. I plan on doing them again next year unless something changes and you see me on the opens. I don't, there's gonna be a long winter. So I don't know. It's
But I tell people the same. I know Thomas, you're going to say something, but I tell people the same thing about Bass Nation of Virginia. I mean, they have a great organization. Please, I'm not taking anything away from them. Got a brand new director. They're making some changes. And the tournament schedule next year I haven't seen yet, but they are going to do a lot more lakes, and they're going to go back to the same 2 lakes every other week. And they did a little bit of that this year. But unless your goal is really to go compete at that next level, go fish the $10,000 guaranteed English Choice Tournament in 2025. I mean, and to be honest, you have to have vacation, and you have to be, I mean, you figure if there's, what is there, like 4 Bass Nation events, and you want to go down there and pre-practice, and you want at least 2 days or 3 days on the water, so that's 12 days of vacation you got to burn right there a year, and most time English put more time into it than that. Then if you make it on the state team and go fish the next event, that's a whole week.
They got rid of it.
All your vacation for the whole entire year just on Bass Nation of Virginia.
Well, they got rid of the state team, so you can actually just pay to play and go do the regional, national.
Right.
You only got to fish 2 tournaments. That's what I was saying earlier. It's like, it's almost, if you're a stick, it's easier to make the classic than All American.
Yeah.
Really 2 tournaments. Just put your money where your mouth is and go fish them. It's still cheaper than doing the Opens or the Toyotas.
Yep.
And you got to fish 2 events, but you got to win for your state or whatever state you mother out of, because you could fish 2 different nations. You could fish Maryland and Virginia, but you just have to pick which one you want to mother out of, and then based off of that, that's how you'll graduate. Because you could go and win for Virginia, but if you're mothering out of Maryland, it doesn't make a difference. So you have to make a declaration like, this is the one, is my home nation. But and getting rid of the state teams, that's mind-boggling to me. It doesn't make any sense.
So we've narrowed it down tonight to all of them have issues. All of them have issues. It's like going to work, guys. You go work for this company, you say, I don't like this one for this issues. Then you go work for another company, I don't like it for this issues, but this one pays me more. You have to decide, again, what you're willing to pay to play. I mean, that's what it all narrows down to at the end of the day. What level do you want to be at when you say, I'm done tournament bass fishing?
You want me to do something for another episode and actually put together like an actual price sheet for what it took for somebody to fish the entire BFLs?
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I'm going to do it.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah.
All right. So as you guys just heard, Dave, we're going to continue this conversation for another night. We're going to wrap this bad boy up for tonight. But Thomas, you did have something you want to say earlier, and we'll let you have your moment, man.
I'm trying to compile some stuff when it comes to tournaments and the economy, and I'll probably have this done in like 2 to 3 weeks. So if you look at like 2019 is probably the apex, and ever since the year of the jab, it's just been completely coming downhill. And you look at it, like eggs have gone up by like doubled, tripled.
Mm-hmm.
Gas, food, like shrinkflation is in. And I know this is a fishing show and not an economic show, but all this stuff matters where it is a lot harder to feed your family now than it was back in 2020. That's 4 years. That's insane how quickly this has skyrocketed. And when you're looking at what the businesses are doing, all these different corporations are now becoming a monopoly. Look at how many, like RoboWorms has now been merged. There's something going on behind the scenes that they're not going to say because they won't tell the truth about what's going on. They know that things are about to really have to get tight here if we're not already in it right now. And it's proof when they give up the West, when they completely give up the West and they've shrunk down to 5 divisions. What does that tell you about where we are with the economy? And again, we can talk about how it's important it is to have all these things, but people aren't showing up and people are staying home. It's because they can't afford it unless you're the ultra wealthy.
And they're not willing to pay the price at the end of the day for the trophy that Dave's talking about because they're more willing to fish a tournament where they're like Geek was talking about, it's going to pay 40, 50 spots back, $10,000 guaranteed to the winner on a $75 to $100 entry. So maybe for $250, let's say gas, food for the weekend, you got a chance of taking home $10,000 guaranteed. I mean, it's just a no-brainer anymore. It really has to be a big carrot at the end of it now. A lot bigger carrot, and that's what Dave's wanted to say. There has to be a lot bigger carrot at the end of it for the amount of money that you end up paying out.
Yeah, 100%. And I guess that's my closing thought. It's like it depends on what you slap on there as the trophy is what matters. And we all want to say in our heart of hearts, it's about the trophy, it's not about the money. But we're human beings, and there's a little bit it's about the money. And if the BFL said next year we guarantee 10 grand each event to the winner, I wonder how their attendance would be.
Oh, yeah.
Like it'd go up.
It would go up, and all of a sudden, people will love co-anglers. They'll be singing "Kumbaya" on the boat, and there'd be no issues. It sucks, but that's what it comes down to. And it's fascinating to see with these other organizations regionalizing like they are. Will Bass, will Major League Fishing, or even that other organization, when we get out of this downturn, will they buy them up? Could they go in there and be like, hey, listen, now that we're on the other side of this thing, we want you to kind of integrate with us now?
Yeah. All right, it's a lot to see, a lot to hear. There's a lot happening during the off season right now here in the world of tournament bass fishing. Dave, man, I appreciate you coming on and talking with us tonight. Like I said, we're gonna have you back on.
Yeah, man.
Another guest set up for next week, but we're gonna have you back on here really soon, and we're gonna break this whole thing down and get you all's opinion and thoughts. I mean, post some comments under podcasts. We'd love to get your thoughts and opinions on what direction or how you see the sport actually going in the years ahead. As like Thomas said, a lot of companies got bought up because they were cheap. And people want that these companies, guys, I read the Wall Street Journal every day. I do the business side of it. And a lot of these guys saw, hey, there's tons of people buying plastic. There's tons of people buying crankbaits. And I can make a quick buck. And they'll buy it for a little or nothing. So, guys definitely said, I mean, the world's changing. Fishing's changing. All is changing. But we appreciate you guys sticking with us right here at Basscast Radio and checking out this episode. Guys, like I said before, please hit the subscribe button, hit the follow button wherever you all listen. YouTube's picked up, Geek. Our numbers are going up. So
nice.
Geek's been pushing me. We really do need to get up. We're going to have a one-on-one, I think, and just sit down and go over this whole thing and have a day. But the numbers are picking up. Thank you guys all for checking it out. Again, like I said, if you haven't checked out before the first cast with Calvin Herndon, the dude is knocking the shows out. You guys are loving them. It's exactly what I wanted to do. I just didn't have time. It was something that I actually thought about shutting down altogether. I deleted all the shows off the network, and I was really wanting to start a real outdoor, because Outdoor Online is the name of our corporation name, but I really want to start more and more shows, podcasts, because I really do believe in podcasts, and I'm a big listener to podcasts. So I'm done with my ramble on that one. But thank you guys for listening. Please make sure you guys follow Bass Geek as well. Dave's big on Instagram. So if you guys want to talk to Dave or get in touch with Dave, and Dave, you're a guide as well, correct?
Yeah.
And where do you guide? What's your main body of water that you guide on?
Candlewood Lake. Also here in Connecticut, we got Lake Zor, Lake Little Nona, and Lake Bantam.
All right, so book a trip so you can help him pay for his entry fees in 2025.
Where can they find your guide service at, Dave?
DaveMillerFishing.com.
Boom.
Boom.
Guys, by the way, we worked it out. What is it, the 28th? Is that right, Thomas? You're going to have us on your live?
Yes.
Live?
As you put me on the spot and I double checked the calendar. Yes,
Yeah,
Monday the 28th, 7 p.m.
Monday the 28th. So we're all going to be on there. You guys can ask questions. I'm looking forward to it. I love being on Thomas's show. And guys, it's going to be a great time. So please make sure you guys check that out as well. Thomas will do a crazy graphic. We might just do some crazy headshots of us or something like that promoted because we're all just crazy anyway. So thank you guys for listening. Have a great night. We'll see you all next week right here on Bass Cast Radio.
Bye.